Hi guys, Allison here, the Bored Housewife. Thank you so much for joining me for another week's episode of the Bored Housewife. We are continuing on with the third part and last part of this series of the philosophy of body positivity. Today we are specifically talking about morality and how we have conceived this idea of morality around food and body and how that's just kind of crazy. And so we've been leading up to this, right? We have kind of talked about it a little bit, even more so last week. I got into it a little bit, but I just really wanted to drive this message home because it's really interesting to me, and I just want to, words get thrown around a lot, right? So I want to make very clear what morality is, what your morals are, right? And then, kind of explore and talk about, like, can we relate those to these certain things, in which I'm going to say no, we shouldn't be, adding morals to how we look or what kind of food we're eating. It's really weird that we do that. So we're going to talk about that today. The last few weeks, I've talked about intuitive eating and then two concepts from intuitive eating. One is that diets fail you, not you fail the diets. And the other one is just, getting comfortable and appreciating the body that you have today, no matter what stage of your health journey you might be on. So if you have not listened to the last two episodes, I highly recommend that. You won't be totally lost today, but I will probably reference some things from them, and you might be like, what is she talking about? I did not, it took me a while to catch on to what intuitive eating is, even though it sounds like really obvious, but it's a little bit more than that. And so, again, I want to share with you the book that I read that helped inspire a lot of the ideas, or that I got some of the ideas directly from this book. It's called Intuitive Eating, A Revolutionary Anti-Diet Approach. And then I also recommend you getting the Intuitive Eating Workbook. I believe that weight loss and mental health go hand in hand. I've said this for the last few weeks now. I think we all have, our weight loss habits. The things that we do are not just, they didn't just come out of nowhere. They came from something. They came from our environments, from our culture, from our society, from our influences. So the workbook really helps you kind of work through some things and figure out where these habits came from. I think sometimes it's really hard to change and make changes when we're not aware of why we do the things that we do. So I just think that, most of us don't want to be overweight. Most of us want to be fit and, look nice and all of that. And so, why we allow ourselves to overeat and not exercise and do all this, like, there is a mental block there, right? So I think that's something that's not really talked about a lot. I see it here and there, but I think that, it could definitely be explored a lot more. So this workbook, helps you, because the book is broken up into different stages. And so the workbook really helps you kind of break through those stages and, figure out why you're doing the things that you're doing and help you get over them to have a more, healthy lifestyle. So, all right, we're going to get into morality today. I am sipping on a white wine, a Sauvignon Blanc. So whatever time of day it is, for whatever type of beverage that calls for, please grab that. And cheers, guys. Let's have some fun. Like I said in the intro, the last few weeks I've been talking about intuitive eating and a few ideas that really stuck out to me from that book. So, just a super quick recap. Intuitive eating is eating with your intuition. It's this idea that we're born with understanding what our body needs and honoring our hunger. Stop eating when you're full, sort of thing. And then throughout life and experiences and different things, we unlearn all of that. And I'm sure, as many of you know, if you don't, again, listen to the last two episodes. I go on some really long rants. And I probably will talk about it again today. The fitness, health, fashion, whatever industry, anything that has to do with your body or food or supplements or anything like that, it's just one big scam. And they're trying to sell you on things, and it becomes very confusing. There's so much different information out there. You could find anything on the internet to say that something is bad. There's so many different levels of everything, and it's hard to know what to do. So, through all of that, it gets very confusing, and we don't know what to do, and we are influenced to think we need to look a certain way, and it's really hard. So, intuition is just trying to get you to do what intuitively is right for you, and relearning some things that we're born with, pretty much. And so, and then the two other concepts I talked about last week was diets fail you, not you failing diets. And I thought that was a pretty revolutionary idea. I had never thought of it that way before. But again, these things are money making machines. If you succeed and no longer need their services, then they stop making money. So if everybody gets better, right, then they don't make any money. If you're not continuing to try different diets or different programs, then what are you doing, right? So, and a lot of these things are very unsustainable in design. It's hard to keep with them forever, and then as soon as you stop, then you gain your weight back, and you personally feel like a failure, like, oh, I didn't do this right. But no, it was designed this way. It was designed to keep you coming back for more, sort of thing. And then the other thing that they talk about is being comfortable with the body that you have now. And I just thought this is such an important idea, and it's something that I've been working so hard on, because, like I've shared, I lost a whole bunch of weight and I still thought I looked fat. I still didn't think I looked good, which is just nonsense. And so the idea is that, if you can't be comfortable and appreciate and admire the body that you have today, then how are you ever going to be okay in your body? Especially if you do lose some weight, or get some strength training, or do some like cool stuff, like you have to learn how to appreciate and respect your body, and not stare in the mirror and shame yourself all the time. So that's a little bit of what we've been talking about. Today we're talking about morality, and morality around these sorts of things. And I just think it is so crazy that, and the thing is, I didn't think this was crazy. I hear it all the time, and I went on this rant last week about the food, but it's like, how, like, oh, this is bad food, this is good food. How, like, it's just food. Okay, so one may not be as nutritious than the other, one may have more calories than the other, but how can you say, like, food doesn't have any sort of character or intellect or personality? Food is just food. It sits there. We make it, we buy it. We can't, to give it good and bad is really silly. So before I get back into that, but I talked a lot about that last week, but we're going to talk about it again this week, because I just really want to drive it home. Morality is virtuous conduct. Morality is right versus wrong. So, philosophers talk about this stuff all the time, because, this can be a very gray area. People have different ideas, and different societies, different cultures have different ideas of what's morally right and wrong. I think there's certain things that are innately right or wrong, but, we could all say that killing somebody is wrong, right? But if you go to war and kill your enemy, that's okay. So it's like, there's some things there where with morality and with what we, deem as right or wrong, it's complicated. And so it's interesting that we have now like transferred this idea of morals into, and I don't know who came up with it, they're a genius, whoever came up with it, but they realized, if we give morality to these sorts of things, then people are going to seek to do the right thing, right? Because in general, as people, we want to be good, right? So if we find out something is bad, then we want to try to fix that. We see that all the time, like, especially recently in, the politically correct culture. It's like things that you could used to say 10 years ago, now people are trying to say that you can't say those things anymore. So it's like we're constantly adjusting, our language and our views on things. Um, and so it's interesting though that and we want to, right? We want to do the right thing. And that's what's hard because it's like, when we look at all these different things in our world, like when you like grow up in a certain era and then, you're coming into this like new modern world and you're old and you're stuck in your ways, like it might be really hard for you to see how something is right or wrong or right. And so, but people still want to try. People still want to try to be on the right side of things. You hear it all the time. I want to be on the right side of history. So, um, whatever that is, though, a lot of times can be very gray and people can have differing opinions on what that is. But what's interesting is that somebody figured out how to market it onto this health fitness industry, and they have us looking at food as good or bad. They have us looking at our body types as skinny is good, not skinny is bad, and even not skinny is a whole spectrum, right? And it's like, there's obviously people in the world who are obese, and that's very unhealthy for them, and they understand that, right? They know what they look like, they know where they're at in their life. But then you have a whole spectrum of people that, might just want to be more active, might just want to incorporate more nutritious things into their life. There's still, even if you're not obese, you can still have other health complications, right? So there's a lot on the spectrum of whatever not skinny is. And then even the super skinny people, like they don't always have the easiest times. So, and there's just so many varying levels of all of this. It's extremely gray, and it absolutely says nothing about our character. It does not make you virtuous because you eat chicken breast every day and you work out all the time. What about that, says I'm a virtuous person? Like, because you're not like gluttonous, that makes you virtuous? No, like you're just, you might be on the other spectrum of like maybe you restrict too much. Like you're restricting so much that you're not enjoying anything about food or life or social scenarios. So, I just think it's wild, and I don't know if you guys have ever thought of it this way, but it's like, like, where did we go? Like, where did that come about when we started to think, you know, let's add, let's add morality to this industry and make people feel shitty, and by making them feel shitty because they're not doing these certain things, they're going to try to correct that by doing the right thing. So, none of these things say anything about necessarily our character and our moral standing, right? And I was thinking about this, and I guess you could argue, maybe somebody who eats really nutritiously and they work out and are very dedicated to themselves, you could say that they hold some characteristics that could transfer into being a good person. And I'm sure there's a lot of people in the fitness industry that are really good people and, want to do nice things, but we can't say that for certain, right? There's probably also a lot of people that, are maybe narcissistic or, they dedicate so much time to themselves, they don't have a lot of time for anything else or anybody else. It's still, depending on what sort of recreational thing they might use, like if they do steroids or, things like that, that's not good for your body and can be like mood altering. They could be a little violent. And obviously, I'm not saying that anybody in the fitness industry is technically like this, but it's just like it's really interesting that, because somebody looks good and has a good body, we might automatically think that they're a better person than somebody who doesn't look like they take very good care of themselves. And, just because you might be overweight and not eat well doesn't mean that you're not a good person. Maybe you dedicate your time more to other things and it's hard for you to make yourself a priority because you're constantly overextending yourself to other people, other causes, other things, and it doesn't leave you enough time for yourself. So, just because somebody looks a certain way, we can't say this or that about them, right? And so I think it's, again, really hard for us to add morality to this. And I think that, there's, the law of attraction sort of thing. And so, again, that could be another argument. Like, prettier people tend to get further in life because we find them attractive. And, there's biological reasons for that, right? But again, that doesn't mean that somebody, and is that right? Like, if we know those sorts of things, and it's a subconscious thing usually when we're interacting, like, oh, this person's, really attractive, you might notice that, but giving them a slight edge is probably a subconscious thing if that's going on. It's not a fair one, but there's certain things that are, biological and just innately in us that whether you're trying to be aware of it or not, you might not realize, right? But again, that's only going to go so far because even if you gave somebody a shot, let's say you had two people for an interview, okay? And one was fit and attractive and the other person was, less fit and less attractive, okay? And the person who was more fit and attractive got the opportunity. Over time, their personality and their character is still going to come out. So whether they're a good person, a good worker or not is eventually going to show. And, the employer might decide, like, if they're not really coming through on, what they promised and what they said that they could bring to the table, they might decide to let that person go, give the other person an opportunity and see, like, oh, wow, this person's very willing and hardworking. So, there's levels, and that could go the other way too. Like, you could hire someone and they do look a certain way and maybe they are very lazy, but that doesn't, just because you look a certain way doesn't mean that you necessarily are that. So you can stereotype and do any of that you want, but reality is like you just need to try to figure out who the person is outside of what they look like. And I know that sounds like, oh, well, super obvious, Allison, but why do we want to be skinny then? Why do we put ourselves through these crazy diets? Why do we do these things when we know that it shouldn't matter? And because there's still influences on us, there's still things in the world telling us that you're going to be better off, or I'm going to look like the version that I want to present to everybody. Well, why not just be the person that you want to present to everybody and allow them to get to know you. And I get it. It's hard. It's super complicated and it's, very gray, and we can't help that there's these forces within us that are subconscious, and we don't realize that we might be giving favoritism to somebody because they look or are a certain way. But um, it's work on yourself first, figure that out, and then you know if the fitness comes or doesn't, I mean, we should all be striving to want to take care of ourselves. Like, that should be something that, and I think we all do. I don't think there's too many people out there that are like, wow, you know what? I just don't give a shit and I'll die young or whatever. Or I'll just take my chances. And I mean, there are some people like that, that they just don't care and they're like, whatever. Um, but I think a lot of us, want some sort of quality of life, especially as we get older. So we look at the long term, and that's specifically my life goals right now. And that's when I talk about like putting things in perspective. Where are your values at? And that's why skinny is such a hard value to hold, because if you're just wanting to look skinny and pretty or skinny and attractive, it's really, that's very objective. And so it's really hard to uphold that. And when you don't feel good about yourself, then it's hard to see any progress in a positive way, because you can always do better, right? So I think that when, you put your values in place and you realize like there is benefits to working out and eating nutritiously and enjoying myself still, there's benefits to that because I live a more well-rounded life, and in theory I will, get to live a longer life, because there's only so much we can control as far as when our time to go is. And personally, yeah, if I get hit by a car tomorrow and die, like there's no control in that, right? But I mean, if I'm getting up into my 80s and then I fall and break a hip and that's the end of me, I'm going to be pretty pissed, because I'm like, you know what? I could have been working out for a long time and maybe have avoided this, or at least been in a better place of recovery. Or, maybe like if you abuse tobacco or alcohol or other sorts of drugs, like you don't have to do those things, right? Nobody makes you do them. Hopefully, nobody makes you do them. So it's like there are certain things that we know are not good for us. And it's like, I drink, and I realized I've personally been drinking a little too much. So I'm trying to cut back on that. But it's like, okay, there's a certain amount of life balance that I'm willing to risk with having some alcohol here and there versus not having it at all. And I'm okay with that. That's what I've decided to myself. So it's all about what you want out of all this. It's your life. It's what you want to do. So if you're okay maybe getting out of here a little bit earlier because you enjoy much more sitting on the couch and not doing anything and not being proactive in your health, then that's totally fine. Personally, for me, that's not what I want, and I think there's just a lot of us. But where are your intentions? Where does your value lie in all of it? Because I feel like what's preached to us most of the time, and why these industries get to be so big and make so much money, is because they're selling you on being skinny. And other than, yeah, it would be awesome to look great, it'd be awesome to look like that, but it's also awesome to look how I do now. And it's awesome however you look how you do now. Like, we all just need to appreciate ourselves a little bit more and have respect for where we're at, and then, decide what we're willing to do. To feel good about yourself, you have to look and see what these industries are for what they are. They tell you what you need and make you feel bad if you don't have these things, right? I even was thinking about the plus size models. A lot of times they even get a lot of criticism because plus size models aren't, technically plus size. And there is even a point when I was, gaining weight again, and I will look at myself because there's a few plus size models that I follow, and they're beautiful and gorgeous, and they're so confident in who they are. And I mean, it's even kind of crazy that they're considered plus size, really. But again, like, it's all arbitrary, right? It doesn't fucking matter. They look amazing. They feel good about themselves. But we have to label things, right? Otherwise, the world would be chaotic. So, okay, they're considered plus size. But I even was, feeling down upon myself because I'm like holding weight, and, I have more of a pear shaped body, especially when I gain weight. And so I'm like, well, at least if I had bigger boobs, then this would all, even out a little bit better. And it's just like, how crazy is that? Like, here I'm nitpicking every little thing about myself. So there's just a point where you have to figure out what you want. And this is what I was just kind of saying before. Like, this industry, don't allow them to dictate to you what it is that you need. Like I said before, they have somehow got us thinking that it's moral to look a certain way and to eat a certain way. And it's just complete nonsense. And I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm trying really hard to keep this episode a little shorter because I know last week's was so long. I'm trying not to go on too many tangents. But you need to, and I just really want to drive this home because I want you guys to really think about it. You might feel good because you eat nutritiously, and that's great. If you have like a really well balanced meal and you maybe cut back on the alcohol, and you only have one coffee for the day and whatever, and you did your exercise and you feel energized and you feel great, that's awesome. You just feel really good today. That doesn't make you a virtuous person. And I'm sorry if that hurts anyone's feelings, but that's where they've sold us on this idea that, hey, when you feel like that, that means that you're a good person. Like, you're doing something right. No, you're just feeling your best. You figured out today how to optimize and get everything working together to make you feel your best today. And it's awesome. Like, I'm so happy. Like, I love it when I have those days when I wake up and I feel I got a great night's sleep, and, I like just make choices that, are with a more nutritious mindset. And I might have like some chocolate at the end of the day to just kick it off with my glass of wine. And it's just like, oh man, this is such a great day. All of that's awesome, right? And I feel good and it's great, and I might have gotten a lot of stuff done because I had energy. All of that's awesome, but that doesn't make me a better person because I did all of that. It just means that I figured it out today. I optimized everything. And the next day, when I decide to eat Burger King and drink a bottle of wine and, like, like do everything else that, make choices that aren't as nutritious, and then I wake up the next day and I might feel a little hungover and a little sluggish, that doesn't mean I was a piece of shit the day before. That just means I made different choices. And I can now go forward and decide, hey, how would I rather feel? Would I rather feel good and energized? And when I say good, like, again, it's not morality good. It's just, how we have language. I feel like I can conquer the day. I feel energized. Everything's working for me. Do I like feeling like that better? Or do I like feeling sluggish and hungover and unmotivated, and, it's painful to get anything done? So we give good and bad to these sorts of things, right? Because we could say that's bad. Now, if the sluggish, hungover day is your normal, I'm gonna guess that your life's not going in a direction that you would prefer it to go in. You probably need to figure that out or seek some help, because that's not going to get you very far, right? If you're feeling the more energized, fueled, I can conquer the day sort of things, then you're probably moving in a good direction, and you're making choices in your life that are going to put you on a path that you want to be on. And so, again, though, are those things morally good or bad? Because you could still be sluggish and feel hungover and unmotivated and be a great person. And you could be a person who feels like they can conquer the day, who has really horrible intentions, right? Imagine like an evil genius. Sorry, I just had this funny mental picture. But like for real, like when you really think about it, like I hope that evil people are sluggish hungover all the time, because they may not, fulfill their evil prophecies. But sorry, that tickled me. Anyways, so you know what I'm saying? You could be either one, and it doesn't matter. So, that has nothing to say about your character or who you are. It just means that your priorities are in a certain place. So, I hope that this series has inspired some of you to put things in perspective and maybe think a little bit differently. Again, if you found any of this interesting, please check out the Intuitive Eating book. You will not necessarily lose weight. So, once again, if losing weight is your mission, you need to be in a calorie deficit. And I explained all of that in the last few episodes. There are certain things you need to do. And again, that's not bad. It's okay to want to lose weight, especially if it's for health reasons. It's okay to start adding things into your diet because, maybe you got some information from your doctor and they're like, hey, you need to figure this out. And so, I have a history of, I think it's type 2 diabetes on my mother's side of the family. And so that really freaks me out. I'm like, I don't ever want to be in a position where I have an issue with that. So a lot of what I'm doing is actually trying to figure that out, because I was feeling my blood sugar levels. I hadn't gotten any work, like any blood work or anything like that done, but I could feel myself, like the levels, and I would get like, shaky halfway through the day and get all jittery and stuff. So, there's so many reasons to want to do things that are good, again, for like your long-term health. But to think that we're morally superior because we look a certain way, or we eat a certain way, or we dress a certain way, like it's just complete nonsense. And these ideas aren't going to leave the industry. So again, I continue, like I'll be having some really good weeks with some really positive thoughts and outlooks, and then I'll get on social media for a while, and it's amazing how quickly that shit can get in your head. So you just see something that resonates with you, and then all of a sudden you're having negative thoughts about yourself again. So we just need to be kinder to ourselves. I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot lately as well. When I have those negative thoughts, would I ever say that to anybody else? Would I necessarily even think that about somebody else? And most of the time I would say no. So if I wouldn't, insult a friend or a family member or even a complete stranger, if I'm not thinking negative thoughts about what they look like, then why the hell am I having those thoughts about myself? Because, I'm more than willing to build up everybody else around me. I want everyone else to feel really good and supported. And I will say, like, if someone asks my honest opinion, like, hey, does this shirt look good on me, I will maybe be like, hey, you know what, maybe go up a size, it might be a little bit more flattering, or this or that. But I would never shame anybody for looking a certain way. So why do I do that to myself? And if I, am thinking even to my friends, like, hey, you know what, maybe if you go up or down a size, that shirt might look a little bit better, that dress might look a little bit better. Because again, like I was talking last week, how the the fashion industry is now, we're forced to fit into their clothes instead of vice versa. And so it's really hard sometimes to find things that look good on you because you might see a dress that's super cute, but it's just not cut for your body. I am having a hell of a time with my camera today. I'm very annoyed. Okay. It doesn't matter. If you go up or down a size, if something's not cut for you and it's just not for your body type, it just might not look good. And that sucks sometimes. There's so many cute things out there and it just doesn't, it's not flattering for my body type. And that's okay. There's a difference between knowing something that's flattering on you versus you shaming yourself because you're not fitting in a size whatever and you feel like that's your size and that's what you should fit into. So I'm not even going to go up a size or down a size because I'm mad now. Like, no, like, and I know it's hard. I do it too. I'm still working on it, but I'm getting it to a much better place. And I just hope that this inspires you guys as well, to, think about where you're at with your mindset and how you talk to yourself. And, if you wouldn't say that to a friend, then you probably shouldn't be saying it to yourself either. So take that for however you would like it. And yeah, please comment, like, subscribe. I would love to hear more from you guys. And did you enjoy this? I think I meant to mention this in the last episode and I totally forgot. I'm on Clubhouse and I'm wondering how many of you guys are on Clubhouse. I would love to create a place where we could have a discussion after the episodes, or maybe even if it's a discussion once a month. I'm not sure how it would work out. Again, like, I'm in Japan and I know a lot of you are in America. So, time difference wise, I don't know how that would work. But I think it would be really fun to hear from you guys. So I don't know if Clubhouse is a place. I'm going to continue to look around. There's some new social media apps out there. And I'm wondering, about them and thinking like, would it be a good place for our community? So, yeah, let me know what you guys think about that. Let me know if you're on Clubhouse, and I think I can invite people. So if you're not on Clubhouse or if it's still like an invite only thing, I'm not sure if they're still doing that. Let me know. And yeah, please share with a friend. Like I said, like, subscribe, check out the link in the description, sign up for the monthly newsletter. I think that's about it. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and cheers. I'll see you soon. Bye.